Buying or selling a home is one of the most important decisions you'll make in your entire life. Call the Holly Ritchie team today for a free market analysis.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Spanning the Need. Tonight, education. And tonight we're going to talk to Andrea Beeman, Special Education from Maple Heights. And this is going to be a mouthful, the 2020 Ohio Education Association and NEA ESP of the Year. Andrea, thank you for joining me tonight. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for letting me join you.
Anytime. Well, you're in the education field, and we'll talk a little bit about that here, kind of a little bit about what's going on in the education field, what's going on in the pandemic, and kind of talk about that. But kind of talk about your background and where have you kind of gotten to today to kind of have people understand your background and your career.
Oh, well, I started my career as a paraeducator about 20 years ago in Maple Heights. Prior to that, I was a preschool daycare teacher. I worked there, but I started to work in Maple Heights about 20 years ago. And I was hired as a mild to moderate special education. At that particular time, we were called aides, to a resource room classroom with students. And I fell in love with the job. I fell in love with my students. I live and I work in the same community, so I knew most of those kids. And it's just been a joy to get up and go to work every day seamlessly. Because I know that what I'm doing is making a difference with our kids. So I started 20 years ago. I've worked in the middle school, and then I transitioned to the high school, and I have been there ever since.
So what is actually, and maybe people don't understand, what does a special education paraeducator do? I know it's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. So right now I work with intensive needs students. So I see to job training. I help to modify lessons. I help them with more sensitive areas, life skill things that they need assistance with. I escort them back and forth to lunch. I help them develop those soft skills that they will need to be employable later on. I also have with their academic goals that they have. I help them build really great relationships with their typical peers. I may even take them into classrooms with their typical peers and other regular education teachers so that they can have that experience of being a part of a larger community rather than a smaller one.
And like we talked earlier before we got on, and I mentioned that my mom was in special ed. She was an aide or a paraeducator at Champion School District in Warren, Ohio. And she was an aide for many years. She just retired after about 10 years, right before the school year. So I think she loved her kids. She was there every day with them. I hate that, maybe this is the wrong thing to say, but it's like you have to have a special heart for just to really work with them and really be there every day. And I think that's what our educators do in general, especially what we're going through with the pandemic.
Oh, absolutely. I think you have to have a heart and a soul to do this, to be in this profession. It's not for everyone, but you have to love making a difference in the life of a child. You have to love and become excited when they finally develop a skill that you have been working on for weeks and for months, or they finally get a concept that you've been trying to help them clearly understand. And when they hit those benchmarks, like it has to be something that inside of your soul to be able to work with kids. It's not for the faint of heart either. because it can be challenging. But you have to go in every day and know that you're going to meet a new challenge. But whatever happened yesterday, you can't change. But you're going to go in and make a positive change in the life of a student, and that's what you have to have in your mind and in your heart to do this work.
And we talk, like as I mentioned earlier, we talked about the pandemic. Is Maple Heights hybrid, or are they back in school or all online?
So currently, it's very difficult to say if it's one or the other. I think it's a little bit of both. So right now we have some of our CTE, our career tech education students coming in because they need lab work. And we have of our preschool, they're coming in for a couple hours a day, along with our intensive needs students. So currently at the high school, I work, like I said, I work with intensive needs students. And so I have in the classroom setting where I work with an intervention specialist, we have right now 5 students and like 3 who are coming at a consistent basis every Monday and Tuesdays. We're online on Wednesdays with them from home. They're at home. We come into the building. And then on Thursday and Friday, they're coming in for face-to-face instruction.
How has it been I mean, as we know that this year has not been normal at all. Mm-hmm. How has it changed? Like, we know that learning education is putting a toll mentally on students as well as educators. How have they adapted to that? Or is it still high?
Well, I can tell you that, kids have fostered these relationships with their teachers and the support staff and their bus drivers and the custodians and tons of people in their education environment. And so it's really hard I'm sure, for them to be at home and not getting that, not making those personal contacts with the lunch ladies who serve them their lunch, with that bus driver who picks them up. They're not seeing them every day. And so they're missing that social emotional piece that they typically would get from face-to-face learning. Also, they're not getting the kind of instruction that I think that's important to them because they're working on from home on technology devices. And so, you do get the face-to-face, but it's really difficult if you have not set the foundation for kids to be able to understand and to work these devices. It's a big learning curve. Some, I can just tell you that in the more affluent school districts, prior to the pandemic, their kids had one-on-one technology devices that they were already equipped with at home, and so they had already started that. And in a district like Maple Heights, where the majority of the students are on a free lunch program, they didn't have these technology devices, and so from home, and so they had to really quickly learn how to manipulate the Google Suites platform, and the teachers had to learn how to teach from home. In this online virtual online environment. And it's been really, really difficult. But of course, teachers and all educators rise to the occasion, and we do what we have to do. We lace up our boots and we go in because we know that kids have to learn.
And I'm kind of getting off pace a little bit because you mentioned about free lunches and technology. How much of your school district is free lunches per percent?
Oh,
do you know off the top of your head?
We are a cashless school district. Everyone, every student in my district gets a free lunch. Every student.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Every student.
Do your students have access to the internet? Because I know we're using Google and some of the Google Chromebook that you mentioned. Do you have or all of your students that?
Our students do. have access to internet. But I can tell you that we haven't done enough as a country to make sure that all students do. When parents they look at their budgets month to month, and I don't think they, at the start of this pandemic, thought that they would have to have an extra expense of internet and Wi-Fi in their homes. I don't think that they saw that. And so, I could just tell you that, millions of kids across this country don't have Wi-Fi and don't have internet. And that's a problem. And that's something that, we talk about that homework gap and that divide that we have, digital divide that we're experiencing. This is happening all across the country. So I'm sure there are tons of students around this nation who don't have it. I can tell you that some of our students who we've determined don't have Wi-Fi, we've tried to connect them with companies and 501c organizations who can provide them with low cost hotspots and that kind of thing. And then we've also, at the beginning of the pandemic, we did a lot of learning packets because kids still have to learn no matter if they have the things that they need or not. And so and we're still doing that at some level. We're still giving kids packets, homework packets, to be able to do that work. And it's very difficult.
Yeah, I had two superintendents on my show, probably maybe in August. Two superintendents, one from Columbus and one from up here in the Youngstown area, and they talked about a lot about challenges that they were facing just going into the school year, and what they were coming up with was the necessary for internet connection, making sure the teachers were safe if they were going to be in class, but also giving the resources to their kids, because like you mentioned, that not every kid in the country, or I would say maybe 70, I think it came out that 70% have internet connection, maybe 80, don't quote me on that, but there was a very good portion of rural communities and inner urbans that didn't have wireless internet, so they were trying to do everything on their phone, which,
yes,
as you know, it's not very, when you have a phone like this, you can barely see it and you're trying to do it. When you have a screen, it's a lot easier.
Right. And you can't manipulate the platform on Google, to do the slides and to listen to the presentation and, that the teachers have prepared for the kids in that lesson. And so it's very, very difficult. And then the safety issue. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
And then, you run into the other challenge is making sure that you keep the kids safe at home, but you also have to make sure that you provide them with those nutritious meals that they're accustomed to getting. We have a lot of kids who, really don't know where their next meal is coming from. And so we want to continue to provide those nutritious meals for them. So we can keep them healthy. I can tell you that a hungry kid, a hungry student cannot learn. And so we want to continue to provide those meals. And Maple Heights, we did that at the start of the pandemic, and we've continued to do it throughout.
And I think that's a huge thing that people don't understand is I think when the pandemic came about, it showed some of our weaknesses in education. It really, I think we knew what some of our weaknesses were in education, but then when the pandemic hit fully, I think then it really magnitude and like, well, okay, that really is a problem. We thought it was a small problem, but now they're looking at it as now it's a massive problem.
I think I agree with you, Anthony, and I think that the pandemic has brought to bear a lot of underlying issues that we've had, and especially with school funding. That's been one of our school funding. Because of this pandemic, we've seen that the issues with IDEA not being fully funded, and communities that don't have poor communities not having the technology and not having the resources that they need to help their students. So and there's an issue with making sure that you also have the resources in your district to be able to provide professional development for your staff so that, you know, they can be able to have the tools that they need to help students become 21st century learners. And you know, we have problems with, you know, funding for buildings right now. You know, we have dilapidated buildings and in some places HVAC systems that aren't in, they were inadequate before. Now you need specialized HVACs to purify the air. So it's
Correct.
just, it's been so many things that that this pandemic has uncovered. And I'm hoping that, you know, when they start talking about kids going back into schools and school safely, they understand that we need dollars and we need money and we need resources to keep our kids safe when they come back in, because it's more than just making sure that we have a vaccine, right? We have to make sure that our buildings are adequately uh, resourced with cleaners and, you know, Clorox 360 machines, and that those
Right.
custodians and those cleaners have the things that they need. They have the tools that they need to be able to keep those buildings clean, and then that all the kids have masks, face masks, and everyone has shields, and, you know, and there's just so many things that we need. And so we're going to need Congress to step up. We're going to need them to step up and to pass that legislation that we need so that, you know, we can help get our teachers and our support staff and our kids back in school safely.
Well, and it's funny you say it because it's not just teachers, staff, it's it's the educator professionals, the superintendents, the administration saying almost the exact same thing about we need resources. Because I think what, and this is just me personally, is you will see over probably the last maybe 6 months to maybe since the pandemic started, is we're looking at schools that are piecemealing everything together and not really having a plan. Some may have plans that probably they do, and some are just kind of going kind of at their hip. So they're getting these dollars from CARES Act and everything, and they're really trying to put it to the best use, which you can't blame them for that because there has been no plan. There's just been, here's your dollars, spend them, but then it's like, okay, we need them for all this, but then the CARES Act only gives you a narrow of what you can actually spend it on.
Right. And a certain time frame within, you have to, within that, those parameters in which you can spend it. And, you know, and we can be honest and say nobody has ever told us and left us a book on how to navigate a pandemic. Nobody has ever done that. And there isn't a clear path because every community is different. Every school board is different, and everybody has their own idea about how to best educate the students in their communities. But the number one fact is this: in most communities, the school system happens to be the largest employer in a district, in a city. Okay, and so whatever happens in that particular school district, it overflows and it affects the community and as a whole. So if we don't get our kids and our educators back in those schools and we don't monitor the situation and we don't operate it in a safe way, it's going to have a negative effect on our communities as a whole. And we don't want to see that happen. We want to make sure that we keep everyone in the community safe. You know, we have kids who in Maple Heights who live in generational homes. So it's really important that, you know, grandma gets the vaccine so that we keep her safe. Anyone else in the home who has an underlying pre-existing condition, we keep them safe. But you have to make sure that you have everyone in your school district, you know, who would like to be vaccinated. It's important to get them vaccinated.
There was a study done, and President Trump and Biden says they want to get students back in the classroom, and I think NEA and OEA have said both. We want our students back in the classroom, and a lot of teachers are electing to get the shot or at least get back in the classroom. And I think that's one big thing is we want to get back in the classroom, but what seems to be the setback? Is it because the resources aren't there to bring them back, or is it that they're trying to do it too fast?
I think they need to take a beat, just take a breath, because I think when our president, when he said they'd like to get the kids back in the first 100 days, I think that's a goal, but it may not happen because we've had some issues with the vaccine rollout. And schools need to make sure that they have plans in place for even something as simple as directions, which way kids are going to be the traffic flow in a school building. Is your heating and cooling working? Do you have touchless fountains, water fountains, so that kids won't have to be able, so because you can't drink from a water fountain anymore?
Right.
Which bathrooms are kids going to use and which ones are going to be open? How are you going to how many kids are you safely going to put in a classroom
Hmm.
together? How are they going to eat lunch? How are you going to serve breakfast? Um, Picking up on a school bus. How are you going to put kids on a school bus together without getting other kids sick? Those are some of the issues that we have to deal with when we start talking about that, and it's a very sensitive process that has to take a lot of thought, and you need to have all the stakeholders involved in making those decisions because it's very important to the lives of our students and the lives of their families.
And it's good to get a perspective, someone from the education side, to say, hey, these are some of the things you think about when you're trying to bring students back. Because someone like that's not an educator, that, hey, has a kid that, hey, I want my kid back to school, what's it going to take, and may not understand that there's step by step by step, like you need the bus to get there, walking in, the rotation, water. So there's more to it than just say, hey, I want to send a kid to school. And I think even the parents are saying, hey, I want my kid to go back to school, because you have parents that are working from home. And I like to call it that by the end of the day, the parents and the kids are zoomed out or virtually out. That's zoomed out, virtually out. That seems to be the new seance, because they've been on a screen like this all day long in meetings or in class, and it just gets tiring.
Kids have to move. They have to move around. They're not getting the physical activities that they're accustomed to getting in school. That recess, being with their friends. That's part of having a healthy child. So right now we want to keep them safe, and we want them to be healthy. But like school districts need hand sanitizer. They have to make sure they have, clean water and paper towels. All those things are just really important. And we have to have a lot of that stuff in supply. We have to have cleaning products so that we can sanitize and clean in between classes. I can also tell you that kids won't be able to share crayons anymore. They won't be able to share pencils anymore. Those things that they were accustomed, scissors anymore. So we have to make sure that we have an ample supply of these things, of these supplies for our kids. So when they come in, um, we can reduce the amount of spread when they're there. And then we have to, and while we're doing that, we also have to contact trace. We need to have enough healthcare nurses in our buildings to make sure that we are keeping our kids safe. We have to make sure that we have an isolation room so that if we find that a kid is ill, then we can put them in there. And we need thermal scanners, and we need to take temperatures. And there are just so many things that we're going to have, and that takes money. That takes money.
Well,
And that
and I
takes
and I think
resources.
and I think I go back to your thing earlier, is what room are you going to use for isolation? Because some of these schools don't have the capacity or available rooms. Number one. Number two, there's a lot of schools that are old. I mean, I know they're replacing them left and right, but they're combining them. They're combining the campuses into one building, or maybe depending how large, you are two buildings, one like K to 5 and 6 to 12. So how are you going to separate the bigger kids from the younger kids when you have this community spread? And then on top of that is these older buildings. A lot of schools are talking about extending the years or extending days into June, July. That's great. That's fine. I don't have if you want to get that 180 days in, but some of these schools are going to need air conditioning. which a lot of them do not have.
They don't have it. They didn't have good they didn't have adequate air conditioning and heating prior to COVID. So now you have to figure out a way to be able to, bring your resources in to be able to to have those things in your facility so that you can make students comfortable. Because again, a kid who's very hot and overheated and dehydrated cannot learn. So we've got a lot. We've got a lot to do to take care of our students, and I don't think as educators we're opposed to getting our students back in. I know that school is the safest place for a kid to be, because those kids who would be able to come up and tell me that something is wrong cannot tell me that now because they're at home. And so I can't, and other educators can't get them the resources they need to help keep them safe. And that's the trauma that we're going to be dealing with, and that's the trauma that teachers are going to be dealing with, and our teachers are going through, and educators are going through a lot of trauma right now, um, and it's going to take a lot for us to work through this pandemic. But I know that we're going to be okay when we get on the other side of it, because we're very resilient, and our children are as well. So I know that we're gonna be able to help them through whatever challenges that they face right now.
Has Maple Heights or maybe and just for the record, you're actually in school. You're actually in school working. So anyone
I am.
asking, she's in school working. So just for the record, so when she says other stuff, you never know. The thing that really gets me is, like, I know in maybe the East Ohio and east side of Ohio, they're starting to give teachers shots at school districts. Has that started in your area where teachers are now they're kind of taking the next phase of Governor DeWine's thing and saying the teacher wants it, we're going to be offering it? Is that started in kind of the Maple Heights area, or maybe not in Maple Heights, but in the surrounding communities in general?
Well, we were on the list to start next week. So
Okay.
I guess, so a few weeks ago, our superintendent sent us out an email and asked us to, they did a really cute Google Docs form. And if we wanted the vaccine to sign up, so we did. And then we were notified just last night, last night. Yeah. That, there would be an opportunity for us to get it next week. So I'm very hopeful. I'm very hopeful. I'm excited, because it shows that there's progress and that we're moving forward in trying to get our lives back. So
Yeah, and I see that and as you're kind of in your past, you've been working with a lot of professionals. You're part of the Ohio Education Board of Directors at large. You're part of National Education Association in Washington, D.C., so you're really giving your all when it comes to education. And then in 2020, you were able to win the Ohio Education Association and the National Education ESP of the Year. Uh, and how did that feel? And tell a little bit about the award and what kind of, and just kind of how you feel that what happened. Because I think what people understand is you are so dedicated to education. We've been talking about education since the Go started and what's happening, and really how much you've really given to the education in your last 20 years of working with kids and really. So how does it mean to talk a little bit about what the award is and how does it feel to win both of those awards, which the Ohio Education is for the state of Ohio and the NEA is for the national in the United States?
so I can tell you that to be honored with the Ohio Education Association ESP of the Year award was beyond anything that I thought that I would ever be able to achieve. Because the things that I do in my community and for the kids in my community, I never thought that I would even get an award for, and it was okay because it was something that I did from my heart. But the award is given to an education support professional in the state of Ohio, I guess, who shows excellence in education and community involvement and going above and beyond the call of duty for students. And so, there's certain criteria that you have to meet, especially with the NEA award. Now, the NEA award, I had no idea. I guess so when you win for the state, your name goes on to the national, and then a group of people go through all of your applications, and they determine who the winner is, and it's based on your advocacy, um, your community involvement, the things that you do every day for students to go above and beyond and to help students, become their best selves. And so I was just so honored to be able to represent education support professionals and be the ESP of the year. It meant that the things that I had been doing all these years, someone really recognized them and saw them, um, and saw that education support professionals are not just, well, she's just a bus driver, she's just a para. We're educators and who deserve the same recognition as teachers would get. And so it has been an honor to represent ESPs through 2020. This year, I know, some people would say
a little bit different.
a little different. You didn't get a chance to to be recognized at a dinner. But, it was more than that to me. I got an opportunity to be recognized by 3 million members of the National Education Association. And that meant more to me than just anything else in the world, I can tell you. My family was proud of me. My community was proud of me. And they recognized the work that I did to just help my students along and to move them along. And I'm looking and I stand on the shoulders, of other ESPs who have done some wonderful work around this country. It's not just the ones who are selected, the ones who are nominated. Those people are remarkable. We are remarkable educators who do a lot with nothing a lot of times. And so, helping kids is, I think, the most important thing that you could ever do. And so I'm honored, and that opportunity opened up another award for me. I was given the Southeast Ohio Education Association Friend of Education Award, and I was given that honor on ESP Day this year. Happy ESP Day, and I just thought
recently.
It was recently, and I thought, oh my goodness, all these doors are opening up for me, and people are giving me this kind of recognition, and I don't take it lightly, because I know to whom much is given, much is required. And so this means that, what I'm doing for my local as the association president, and in my role as leader in my state and in the nation, I need to keep going, and I need to keep doing more, and I need to bring other leaders in, and other people, and bring them into the table too, because this work is so important. It's so essential to our kids.
And I was actually the 2019.
Yes, you were.
Ohio Education Association ESP of the Year. So
yes, you were, Anthony.
So I'm glad you were able to follow in the ESP of the Year footsteps and go. The only problem was they didn't have a dinner. I think it was supposed to be in New Orleans. Was that?
It was. It was supposed to be in New Orleans, and I can tell you that, even if I was not the recipient of this award this year, it was just going to be an honor just to be there with the other, nominees for ESP of the Year. It was just going to be an honor to be there and celebrate all of the hard work and all of the blood, sweat, and tears that we've endured to get there. And so, and then also, just being able to go to the ESP conference where there's such, it's the premier conference for education support professionals to get that essential professional development that we need to just to be professionals in our job and to move ourselves forward. And so I was looking forward to being able to get the professional development that I signed up for, because I knew that I was going to be able to learn, and then to bring that work back into, to bring that, what I've learned and the knowledge that I gained, back into my local.
Yeah, because mine, 2019, I was recipient of the ESP, it's an honor to represent the state of Ohio, which is a huge honor for 130 some thousand staffs, teachers, and everything in education, and then go to Las Vegas, the old Las Vegas. I've never been there. Like, yeah, and you're able to go there. You're able to go a day, 2 days early to do training, to do professional development, to talk to other professionals. No matter, you're honored. You're an honoree. It's an honor just to be there. To be honest, with everyone and everything they do in the community, for these individuals, it's like you look like, wow, look, I'm in the room of just a lot of honorary people that really have done good in the community that may have not got recognized in their own communities.
Absolutely. But, they're leaders in their own right. And I can tell you that, NEA has done a lot to uplift the profession of ESPs. We've done a lot, and we're still going to be doing more. And I could tell you that, I was also really happy that, and I think you participated in this too, Anthony. I think you participated in the Professional Growth Continuum, PGC. Did you get a chance to? I think you participated in that.
You mean back 2 years ago?
Yes. Yes.
If I can remember correctly, because that was 2 years.
Professional
We're in
Growth
2020.
Continuum is a wonderful way for ESPs to see what their professional path is, and to chart one, and to be able to get that growth and learning and the competencies. And I'm telling you, it's amazing work that NEA and our education support professionals and leadership have done to help move ESPs forward. And so, and that work segues into the ESP conference. So I was looking forward to that. But, we're still going to do it this year. It's just going to be virtual, and I believe it's going to be amazing. And so if we have any education support professionals from Ohio on, I urge you to go on the website and to look and start to look around. The website's all different, and it's really new. And it should have something on there about when we're I think it's going to be in March again. In March.
I think it's March or April.
Yeah, it's going to be in March, and I think it's going to be amazing. And we're going to get some really great, wonderful professional development that we can use, and then we can take back and to help our students, to help the babies in this country.
Well, we talk about the different types of stuff that is going on, and we talk about NEA and OEA, and what are some of the things coming down the pipeline that we're looking at to try to really work to move in a direction? What kind of things that NEA is trying to do, OEA is trying to do to kind of move education forward?
The thing that I think that I'm most proud of with OEA, NEA is the racial and social justice work that we've started. I can tell you that, and it's never been more important than it is right now with the murder of George Floyd this summer, and some of the issues that that we face as a nation regarding race and equity, and so we're starting to really do deep dives into that work at OEA, Ohio Education Association, and at NEA. And I'm really proud of of our stands and the work that we're going to start doing, and going to segue some of that work on racial and social justice into our school districts, because it's important that we start to recognize diversity, not as a thing that cripples us, but as a thing that lifts us all up. And so so trying to turn our focus there, with all of the other balls that we have to balance in the air, I think is really, really important to us, as a state and as a nation. And I think we need to start having those very difficult conversations. That's the only way I think we start to heal, as communities, and start to heal as states and as an entire nation. So we're going to start doing that work, and I'm so excited about it.
And I know that a lot of education sectors, if it's higher education or if it's K to 12, that you're seeing a lot of different. You're seeing more collaboration, or like people coming together a little bit more than they have. Does that look like that NEA is doing a lot of that? They're coming together and kind of forming with other unions that really can kind of come together and really use the resources together instead of as individual organizations?
I think we're starting to do that. I think we're doing a lot of coalition building, if that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
We are.
Couldn't get the word out.
Yeah. We've had to do a lot of that. I think and I think it's not just at NEA. I think we're starting to learn that we can't do this work alone. So even in my small local, we're doing coalition building and trying to find out what brings us all together with different unions. NEA works with we're the largest union in the world. United States, we're 3 million members is nothing to snore at. I think Becky always, our president, Becky Pringle, always tells us that out of every 100 members, every 100 people, at least one person is an NEA member, and that's nothing to snore at. That's nothing to.
That's pretty big.
That's pretty big. We have a very large, reach and in touch into this nation, and so coalition building is essential to what we have to do, to bring everybody to the table, because education, as you see, affects everyone. And we can no longer look away and at the things that kids have to have. And so coalition building is essential. And I think we're doing that at the state. And it's not just about, a Democrat versus a Republican issue. I think that, I think it's a national issue. And I think once we all start to come together and see what issues we can agree upon and we can work on, it's going to make us stronger as a nation. So I look forward to seeing all the coalition building that OEA is going to continue to do. And I'm excited about the alliances that NEA has built with other unions and other organizations. I think it's going to just help us so much in moving our mission and vision forward for our students.
Well, and I think that brings up a good point, is because when we referenced a little bit about how when the pandemic has really shown us our weaknesses, and I no matter if it's a food desert or people needing money or free lunches or a variety of the different things. One thing that I've seen is that at least in certain communities, that you're starting to see more organizations come together that would normally not come together. And I think that's one big thing that's coming out of this pandemic, is the normal person is now volunteering a little bit more of their time, or if they can't volunteer because of maybe something with the pandemic or they have to stay home, they're maybe donating an extra dollar if they can, or helping the neighbor. You're seeing a lot more good stories, like good, heartwarming, inspirational stories than you would normally see. And I hate to say that, but you would want those stories no matter if there was a pandemic or not.
You would want those stories, but I at Maple Heights once a month, my my councilwoman holds a food drive, and so and people that I had no idea that I had never seen, and come out and they volunteer. We mask up, put gloves on, we're passing out food to people who need that, and I've even taken food, gotten boxes of it in bags, and found families who of kids in my school district, whose parents may not have transportation to be able to get to that food and taking it to them. And so what we're seeing is that communities are coming together to help each other in this critical time. And it's very important. But, I'm going to tell you the one thing that I'm starting to see that I so love is that educators are starting to run for political office. And that's so important to making sure that we have our voices at the room, in the room and at the table. And so that's been something that I've started to see during this pandemic. That's been something that's just been very, very interesting and exciting, that educators are starting to run for office on school boards, city councils. They're doing it, and it's making a difference in the lives of our students.
Well, I think one thing, it's passages from either the Bible or something. Treat someone as you would like to be treated. I think I got that right. It's always something. But I think that there are some people out there that despise a certain thing. No matter what you say, they're going to disagree with you, or no matter what their opinion is, you can never change it. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I think it gets where it gets too far. I can agree to disagree with you. That's as simple as it gets. I mean, would you agree with kind of that statement?
Well, I think it's about the unknown, and I think we have to do more with relationship building. Like I said, conversations. Some conversations are really, really hard to have. I think we need to learn how to agree to disagree, and we can do that. But I think we need to find what issues that we care about, that we have in common, and then we start to build upon those. That's how, as a nation, we move forward. So I don't worry too much about the differences of opinion. I try to find where we have commonalities and
common ground,
and where we start there, and then that can start to build a connection. Because everybody's not going to agree with me, and I get that. Some of my union members don't, but I try to figure out what we both can agree upon, and how we can best meet the needs of everyone. And I think that's where we have to start.
Well, I think it's the notion of, you agree at the end goal, but you look at two different ways of getting there. But at the end of the day, you're looking at that you want to have this done. You want to have more shots and more teachers in the classroom. How's that look? But let's get there together in some fashion. But how does it show?
Let's work to get there together. Absolutely.
Exactly. And I think that's no one's ever going to make 100% of the people happy. We know that. But we're always on common ground, and the end goal is always usually the same, just in a different way.
Yes.
And so let me ask you this. So in your career now, you've been doing this for 20 years. What are your plans moving forward now? Are we looking at running for office? Are we are we looking at retirement, or are you just going to keep going? What are some of your plans, I should say?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because I was asked that. So, I still would like to be able to have a positive impact on education in some way. And I'm really interested in the restorative justice aspect of education. Kids, and we talk about punitive disciplines and that, and the school to prison pipeline. I would like to do something with that. I know that in my school district, we have school discipline policies that go on, but some of it, may be a little outdated, and we need to figure out a way to get kids back into classrooms and out of in-school suspension. But there needs to be a way that we mediate disputes and do some training with students. And so I would like to take an active role in that. And that's all I'm going to say for right now.
Oh
But
man.
my husband tells me all the time that I need to run for office, and that may be something that an avenue that um, I go down maybe a little later on. But right now, I just I'm concentrating on trying to get my students and my family through this pandemic, and to advocate for more resources for our district. Take a little bite at a time, and then we'll move forward. I'm not at retirement just yet, so I have a lot of other things that I want to do first. Um, but I think, but that's where I am. I think I feel like I'm feeling a calling for the school to prison pipeline work, and so, and the more students that we can, to get away from that, I think will also make our community stronger.
Well, let me ask you this question because I think I forgot to ask it, but this we'll kind of end it here on this note. How bad is the mentalness of students in the classroom? It doesn't have to be at Maple Heights, it can be just in general. Like, how is it that bad? Because you hear stories of some horrible stories in the news, and I know there was one school that had some of their kids just, I'm not going to say it, but some of their kids had breakdowns. And the mental seems to be really getting to the students. Is that what you're seeing as well?
Are you talking about like as a result of the pandemic?
Yes, as a result of the pandemic, mentally.
No. Well, I can tell you, it's a stress, it's trauma. To
Hmm.
not have your to have a certain routine, and to have your life structured in such a way that now, for a year, almost a year, our kids won't have been in a regular brick and mortar building. Um, it's really hard. Those support systems that you once had, the teacher you could talk to, the bus driver that you could talk to, they're not there. So that trauma is real. It's real, and we know um, what trauma does to a child's brain. Um, and so, we have some really serious work to do. And some kids had issues prior to this pandemic. Now, this pandemic has brought to bear some of those issues. And so I'm not going to discount that it's and say that it's not important. It's I'm not going to downplay it, because it is, because we have a lot of kids who are going through depression, um, and as a result of that are not doing well. you know. And so we're going to need resources for counselors and for social workers to help our kids when we start back, because they're going to have some issues segue in their lives back to a new normal.
Yeah, and I think that normal's, I hate to say it, is hopefully it's not far off.
I hope not.
And
I
I
hope
know
it's not
there's
far
been
off.
talk, yeah, and I know there's been talk at the state level, at least in Ohio, I don't know on the national level, of getting counselors, and hiring social workers. But from what I'm getting from superintendents and from districts is there's no money there. You've already cut the budgets, and I know in 1997 they said that the way funding in Ohio it was unconstitutional, if I'm correct on that. I know that they're coming out with a new bill. I don't know if they passed it yet for updating the school funding.
Well, I hope so. I hope so, because we're not going to make it at the current level that we're at now. Some of our districts are going to be in the red after in 2021. I mean 2022. They're going to be in the red if they got money, if they received funds from the CARES Act. That may keep them afloat for a little bit. But what happens after that? What happens in 2024? We have to look down the road and to see what, what needs are going to be that we're going to need to be met for our students and for our communities. And so we're
And
going to
I
have to
know
get our
that,
act together.
yeah, and I know you'll be the forefront of all that.
I'll be standing with a lot of other people who are going to be at the forefront as well. It's not just it's going to take all of us to go in for all of our kids.
Andrea, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you got a lot going on, and thank you. I hope you enjoyed.
I did. It was like it's having a conversation with a friend. So I
Exactly.
enjoyed
And
myself.
now
Thank you,
at the end
Anthony.
of every episode, I like to ask 5 questions to all of my guests.
Okay.
You want to have a little bit of fun?
Oh my goodness. I'm ready.
Now, usually when I ask these questions, they yell at me and they say these are more challenging than the interview. So I don't think so. I think they're just
Okay. Okay. All right.
so. Any answer can be either professional or personal. There's no right or wrong answer. So it's either one you want.
Okay.
What's
All right.
your best accomplishment?
Oh, my best accomplishment was getting all three of my children, having all three of my children graduate from college. That was my husband and I. That was our best accomplishment.
Okay. What's your best memory?
Oh, my best memory is, well, it's having Sunday dinner with my grandmother at her table. Our whole family was there, and she would prepare every meal, every favorite meal that everybody liked. So if I liked something, she would prepare that. If my sister liked something, she would prepare that. My brother did. If my uncle did. If my mom did. So that is one of my favorite memories, sitting around her table, her very well dressed table, and having Sunday. Yes, that
I'd
is
be
one of
like,
my
just make me
favorite
some
memories.
pasta. Just make me pasta. Pasta to my heart. My wife knows me well. Best experience.
Oh, best experience.
Harder questions than the ones I originally asked you, huh?
Yeah, I can tell you. One of my best experiences was running for NEA ESP Director at Large and having to speak in front of 8,000 brothers and sisters in solidarity. That is a great experience in public speaking, and it's wonderful to be able to communicate with people in that forum.
Okay. Okay. Who's your role model?
Oh, I have so many.
You
I
can
have
name a
so many.
couple.
Oh, okay. So personally, it would be my mother, and my grandmother and my great grandmother. Those are the three most dynamic women I think and that, and I'm so honored to even have to be connected with them in the same gene pool. They were fantastic people. Um, some of people that professionally, oh my gosh, I could tell you. Uh, I admire some association people like Princess Moss. I admire her. Pat Frost
Princess, if
Brooks. I
you're
admire
watching,
her.
make a comment. If you're watching, Princess, make a comment.
Um, I admire some my friend Kim Richards. I admire her. She's a teacher. Adrienne Bowden, Gretchen Washington. I admire them. In the larger stratosphere, Michelle Obama. Um, I admire her. Just tons of Becky Higgins. I admire her. Just tons of very very strong
We love
women.
Becky.
We love her. Yeah, but just strong women who, and even Cheryl Mathis, who
Hmm.
was executive director, and just very, very strong. And we have a new executive director now, Patricia Collins Murdoch. I admire her so much. Just really women who've gone out and who've just given me a great example of what professionalism looks like, and showed me a really great path, um, to being a good leader, what a good leader should look like. And so those are people that I admire.
Okay, nothing wrong with that. And I think one person made um, a, uh, a comment and says Youngstown schools are open, or are they still doing virtual? Sorry, my man, I don't know that answer.
I don't know the answer either.
Yeah. Okay. And the last one is, and so okay, gotta listen to the whole question. If there was one person you would want to meet, past or present, who would it be and why?
So I can tell you that I would love to meet Maya Angelou. She's my favorite author. When my aunt passed away, I inherited all of her books, and as a teenager, and I started reading all of the books that she had by Maya Angelou, and it just opened up um, a world to me that was just so amazing. So I would love to meet her.
Okay. Andrea, thank you for joining me tonight. It was a privilege,
Yeah,
always a pleasure.
thank you.
Everyone, thank you for joining us tonight on Spaying the Need. Andrea, stay on after this. We have something for you.
Oh,
So everyone, thank you for joining us tonight. If you have any questions or you would like to reach out to Andrea, you can find her on Facebook or just Google her on NEA's website, and you'll be able to find her information and then be able to get in contact if you'd like to ask her any questions or follow-ups about what she does and anything like that. If you have any more ideas or you'd like to watch more podcasts or follow us on announcements, go to anthonyvspano.com. Everyone, stay safe. God bless. Have a great night, everyone. Good night.